So I'm going to show you as best I can. The stove has not had wood in it since 10:30 last night. I left the house at noon yesterday, came back 5 hours later, and the house was 76 degrees without a fire in it. Okay, so the fire had been dead for 5 hours. And then I relit the fire, and then I let it burn until 10:30. And then at 10:30, I let the fire go out, and I slept on the warming bench. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to open up the lever, if I can remember how. There we go. Down is closed. Okay, so down is closed, which means that the fire, the smoke is going to go up the chimney instead of into the bench. And I hope I got that right. Darwin had to come rescue me the other day. So the one I made yesterday morning was a cold burn. This is going to be a warm burn because the bench, let's see if I need to move my light. The bench is still warm. Hopefully you can see. Okay, so can you see? Where else can I put this so you can see? Anyway, I'll leave it there for now. So there's no ash in it this time, which means that I wasn't doing it right before. Before, I was getting, hold on a second. I was getting this much ash. This time I'm getting 0 ash, which is what you want in a rocket stove. So what Darwin said is pack it full. Pack it full and don't put the grate in. When you put the grate in, you got cold air going in underneath the wood that's going straight up the chimney, so it's not able to warm up, and it's too much air. It's sucking the flame off. So if any of you would think people would like to see this, let's see, who is it? Tracy. Hey, love your teaching videos. Love how the girls help you. Oh, thank you, Tracy. Okay, so this and the mass, the rocket stove part, or what's it called? The aircrete part. The aircrete part is still quite warm. So, where are they? So, these are the little fire starters that Darwin makes. I cannot start this stove efficiently without them. The reason is there's no fluff, there's no ash from these, and you can't blow these out with a 40-mile-an-hour wind. So, now if I scratch the top of them to get a little bit of that wax up, they start faster, but I don't have anything to scratch them with, so I'm just going to leave my flame on them for a minute to start them. But again, the stove is warm. The pea gravel is still warm. The bench is very warm. That's what I slept on last night. So I'm going to start the little, a little bit of the wood on the fire starter has to actually ignite, which if I pull it away right now, maybe it already will. Sometimes you have to let the fire sit on it for half a second, but it looks like it actually took off just fine. So yeah, this is a wind-proof fire starter, which means that if you can actually put it in water and it'll still burn. So I have the smoke going up the chimney instead of into the bench. Even though everything's already warm, the chimney out there isn't going to be warm. It's probably pulled a little bit of heat off the bench in the night, but not much. So you can see the difference between yesterday when I did not only a cold burn, but I was doing it wrong. Again, we were experimenting to see if the grate would work. The grate does not work. It cools things down too much. It's too much air going through. And you can see it's already flowing to the back. Do you see how it's pulling it to the back? Yeah, and so with the fire starters, Darwin has the recipe over on his Etsy. Well, does he have it? I know he has the plan for it over on the Etsy store, and he has some of these that are actually for sale. So if you have a bug out bag, these are better than any other fire starter out there because it has a secret ingredient in it, which I happen to know. And if you buy the recipe, you'll know too. It has a secret ingredient that you put in that makes it so you can't blow it out. It just gets hotter when you blow on it. And you can put it in water and it'll keep burning. So I think their shop is Honeydew Carpenter on Etsy. But you can see it's already flowing towards the back. And originally I was trying to put in little sticks. I was trying to put in big logs. You can't put in big logs until the coals are going, but you don't want to put in little sticks either because you get too much air between them and it doesn't burn up the chimney. Let's see, Tracy Hayward said, do you have a lamp you can light? The video is very dark. Yes, I do actually have the lamp going. I'll see if I can figure out what I can put it on so have another lamp I could bring out too, but it makes me a little nervous to put it up on something like that. Is that better? Hopefully that's better. So, we were out checking on baby goats all night, and that's why I was up a couple times the night, not because we actually got cold. So hopefully that's better. So I didn't get cold last night at all, and I didn't get hot. That's the other problem with wood stoves in a tiny space, or in any space, is that you get it up to a certain temperature and then it's burning efficiently, but it bakes you out of the house. So with this one, what's nice is it has so much mass. It has the mass around the burn chamber, and it has the mass around the heat riser. See this? And everything there is filled with something that absorbs heat. And then you have the bench too. So even when it's burning at its hottest, I can go upstairs and there isn't this line of pain where you go from warm to extremely hot. And this is, I think this is about 350 square feet if you include the lofts. And because of that, it is a very tiny space. It is easy to get overwhelmed by the heat. But this holds it somewhere between 72, and the hottest it's ever been in here is about 80. That's the warmest. If I keep everything closed, I have it rip snorting, it might get 80 degrees. But generally, if I'm letting it just start as it wants to start, is 72 to 76, somewhere in there. But you can see how quickly that took off. And there's no smoke, and it hasn't started to roar yet, and I do not have the extra air ports open yet. I'm going to let the chimney warm up a little bit. Let's see. All right, let's see. The Irish Homestead family said, do they cost much to make? Is that are you talking about the fire starters, or are you talking about the stove? The fire starters, I think it takes a couple pennies. He has a little press that he made out of PVC so that you can compress, because the stuff that the pellets, the fire starters are made out of is not compressed. He has a compressor that compresses it down so that they're little pellets instead of just being loose bricks. Because he brought the big loose brick that they melt down to make more, and he had to cut that off, but these are better. The stove itself, Darwin's working on plans for it right now, for PDF plans. He used his foam mate to make the aircrete that has insulated it, and the window insert and the chimney, so he used aircrete for that. I don't know how much he's going to charge for the PDF when he has it, but he used, sorry, I'm getting cramped sitting down like this. He used everything reclaimed material. And so I think this part is a water heater. That part's a regular 5-gallon drum. What it sits on is an old saw blade, a round saw blade that he took the edges off. This is, I don't remember what this is, but this is a galvanized pipe of some kind. And then he made this little inside box. So everything here is actually reclaimed. He didn't buy any of this new. He just went to the junkyard and found stuff that he could use and used it. Which is why you guys should go follow the Honeydew Carpenter if you want to see how to do things that are brilliant and do them inexpensively. He's also doing a spot welder later. He's going to show us how to make a spot welder. Are the fire starters a plastic material? No. They are wax and sawdust and a specific kind of rock. There's a little bit of a certain kind of rock in there, but it is wax and sawdust and a little bit of rock. No, there's no plastic in them, but this is the plastic container. I think these are like golf ball. This is like a golf ball container or something. But there you go. She's going, and I need to go out and check on some baby goats again. So if you guys have any questions, it was super cozy last night. At first, when I laid down, I couldn't feel the heat through the bench. The bench was warm, but what was nice was I actually couldn't feel the heat of the bench until the rest of the cabin started to cool down a little bit, and then I felt the heat of the bench. And it was like sleeping with a really nice hot water bottle. Let's see. Yeah, it is pretty awesome, isn't it? So there we go. And I don't know how much more exciting I can make it, but that's it. I think I have another video going up this morning, but I wanted to show it to you live. If you guys see it live, you can see what I'm struggling with. You can see how I changed that. So yesterday morning, I was having a huge struggle because the day before, and this is the interesting thing. I should find something to sit on. Hold on a second, guys. Let me find something to sit on. Okay, so, pardon me. So, what happened the day before was, what happened yesterday, one of the reasons it was so hard to use was because I'd had a very inefficient burn the day before, which had left some creosote and water vapor in the system because it never warmed up enough. What I had done was I left the valve open so that it went into the bench before it heated up, which means that then we had a chimney that never warmed up, and aircrete does collect moisture. And so the chimney would have had moisture in it, and what I ended up seeing coming out the chimney, for the most part, was white. It was steam, which means that it took a long time for that chimney to warm up. And when it finally did, after I'd been burning it for a couple hours, what we had coming out of the aircrete was steam. That was in the chimney, because the chimney is insulated with aircrete. But at this point, yesterday, Darwin came over and he walked me through what I needed to do. I needed to keep the grate out. I needed to take the grate out. It was putting too much air in, too much cold air. And I needed to pack the firebox rather than using little sticks. And I needed to make sure that I diverted the air up the chimney until it heated up to about 200 degrees. And then I could switch it over into the bench. So yesterday when I first started, I had smoke because I had kind of messed up the system by doing it wrong. This time and last time I started this, so I started this again last night when I got home at like 5 or 6. Was it 5 or 6 or later? I think maybe it was more like 8. I don't remember. Anyway, the last 2 times that I started, there's been no smoke. It started right up. For one thing, the fire starter. The fire starter doesn't leave ash the same way that paper does. And it doesn't gum up the works. So now here we go. Second start in the last 24 hours that has been clean, and it just goes right up, and it's working like a charm. I slept here overnight and it was delightful. I now feel safe to have the kids come over at night. I feel super safe to sleep here at night because when I close this front piece down, this piece right here, and there's a little latch on this side that holds the door closed. There's nothing here that's flammable, that the stove cannot malfunction. All it can do is run out of air. It's not going to melt anything. And so as far as, there we go. As far as sleeping here, I don't feel like I have to get up in the night and babysit the stove. If a high wind comes up, it doesn't matter. We had 50-mile-an-hour winds 2 days ago. There. Can you hear it rocket? There she goes. We had 50-mile-an-hour winds here the other day, and it didn't affect the chimney. It didn't affect the stove. Nothing could pull air through the stove faster than what the J-tube already pulled. As a rocket stove, it was already rocketing. The wind couldn't make it rocket any harder. We don't need to worry about chimney fires or anything because of the heat of the system. Creosote can't build up as long as I'm not doing it improperly. Randall said it will be very nice when it works like it's supposed to. Well, it is working like it's supposed to. It is now working like it's supposed to. Everything, it was operator error, not mechanical error. So, there we go. You can't make it do its fun tricks, its fun bag of tricks until it's warmed up a little bit, just because it's super insulated. The chimney's insulated. The stove is insulated. Everything's insulated. So every part of it that is mass needs to warm up before you try to get it to do its tricks, like putting air down through the bench. Even though it will continue to suck and it won't get smoke, it'll function. What it's not going to do is burn efficiently the way it's supposed to until it's warmed up. Let's see. You're welcome for sharing, Tracy. Have a good day at work. Yeah, it is lovely heat, and it's warm here. But what's really nice about it is the only really warm part of the stove is the very, very top. Everything else, as long as you don't let the stove get too cold, everything else just stays really nice room temperature, no extremes, no highs, no lows. So I figure if I build this up and let it go for a couple hours before I go into town, that when I come back out late this afternoon to do more work, it'll still be going. The fire will be out, but the bench will be going. How cold is it outside? You know, I'm not sure. It's not that cold this morning. It's in the 30s somewhere. The last couple days, it's been really cold, freezing temperatures with ice in the goat's water bucket. Last night it was pretty cold, but it's warmer this morning than it was last night. So instead of being freezing, I'm pretty sure it's in the 30s somewhere. So anyway, I wanted to show you that so that you could see. Yesterday was a bad start. Operator error. This was the appropriate start. This was this morning's start. Hey, J.K. Nokel. Just because, at least for me, when I'm building something and I have money to invest in getting a project started, I want to see it fail. I know that sounds terrible, but I want to see when it is going to fail, when it is going to succeed, what makes it succeed, what makes it fail. So yesterday you saw it fail, today you see the succeed. You saw me start it from scratch, and now we know don't use a grate. Don't use a grate, and the valve works. Josh, SA123 said 1 degree Celsius. Phew, that's cold for South Africa standards. Ha. Yes, it would be. The funny thing is, John, back in Tulsa, he's had colder temperatures than we have, or at least as cold of temperatures we have. J.K. Noko said we learn more from our mistakes. Yes, exactly. And again, it was operator error. As we're using the stove, we're kind of trying to figure out what makes it tick. And so when we first started out, we were using kindling, and it didn't really like kindling. What it wanted was a little bit of wax on a fire starter, and it wanted some bigger logs. It didn't want big round logs to start out with, but it wanted some split logs that were reasonably sized. Because what happens is as that flame gets sucked off, if it doesn't have enough wood there to actually start to burn, the flames literally get sucked off. If you use little kindling, it doesn't have enough to eat while it's getting sucked sideways up the tube. So I need to push that back a little bit. What do I have? And even the fat pine did not work. See, this is fat pine. I got this from Doug and Stacy. The fat pine doesn't work as well as the little. I'll put that in there since I've already used it. The fat pine does not work as well in the stove as the inserts do, and I don't know if that's just because it's this is a hotter flame. I don't know if it's because of the wind. The pole doesn't bother it. I don't know why. By the way, this is a batch box system. Now, if you put it in from the top through here, then it would be a normal J-tube feed system. But this is a batch box. So watch this. I think it's pretty cool. That's when it starts to roar, is when the air is only coming in from the bottom. J.K. Noko said, I have a caboose coal stove that is very temperamental. Yeah, and some stoves can be like that. Our biggest problem with our wood-burning stoves from the past was that we would get, we were cooking in them, which means you have to be able to alter the temperature up and down, and when you're doing pot roast, you need a lower flame in the oven. For the pot roast than you do for cookies. And so we were always playing with the temperature, which means you're going to get creosote at the lower temperatures. If you're banking the stove at night, you get lower temperatures, which means you get creosote. And creosote means that when you have a really strong wind come up and you have a fire in your chimney, the odds of a chimney fire are pretty good. So with our Elmira Flame View, Fire View, whatever it's called, we had to clean that stove every 6 weeks. We had to clean out the chimney every 6 weeks. Now, if we'd had the chimney that I have now, which is an insulated chimney, we did have double-walled chimney, like the insulated chimney that has airspace between it. But if we'd had the chimney that we have now, I kind of wonder if maybe we wouldn't have had the creosote buildup because the chimney would have stayed warmer. I don't know. I'm actually really enchanted by this chimney because of how well it pulls. I mean, it's a 2-foot drop from the stove down into the bench, and yet that chimney stays warm enough and pulls well enough that we don't have any smoke leakage. So anyway, I thought this would be exciting. Pardon me while I try and get sleep out of my eyes. I did just wake up. I took let's see, I got in at whatever time I got in. It was just starting to get dark. I got in and I took my little agricultural sprayer and heated up some water on the wood stove and took a shower, which was very nice. The kids are not with me because I wanted to do this without having any chance of them being uncomfortable. See you, JK. No, I can't get your name. JK Nokel. There we go. Thanks for watching. I did do it solo last night. For one thing, we have a goat in labor, and you know, it's easier for the kids to be at Granny's for this kind of test run. So we've got the stove going. I'm going to go out and check on goats again. But I took a shower last night. It was super nice. I'm very clean. I had clean clothes here that I had left before we went to Tulsa. I had toothpaste and toothbrush, so it felt like I was playing in the woods. And we do have one cord in the house that runs the refrigerator. And if I need to plug in my phone, it runs the phone too. But we're not using it for anything else. And the reason for that is, again, safety. If I'm going to have food out here, it needs to be in a refrigerator. Until I can figure out a different way to refrigerate out here that's off-grid, that I don't need to worry it's going to make my kids sick. I do have the little tiny refrigerator plugged in, and I do have a cord for my computer, but that's it. We're not using it for lights, as you can see. We're not using it for lights. We're not using it for anything else. It's the extension cord that I use to run my tools when I'm out here building stuff. So, again, it's not in the walls. It's just an extension cord. So, Andrew Thomas said, hello gang from the fans in Australia. Love your channel. Oh, thank you. You're so kind. So I think things are coming along. You can see the blue on the wall. That's actually a piece of fabric that I put foam behind so that you have something to lean against. I don't know. I could try and show you guys where I slept last night. That's where I slept last night. And it was super nice. I'll see if I can. Again, these fire starters are to die for. If you have a package of these in your bug out bag, it doesn't matter how hard the wind blows or how wet your wood is, you've got a way to start a fire. Okay, so I'm going to move those. They're on the Honeydew Carpenter site. And he actually teaches you how to make them. You don't have to just purchase them. So I'll show you how I am making my bed. Brown Coat Homestead said, how long does it take to heat up the house? So right now, this is a warm start. So the last logs went in at 10:30 last night. And I got up every couple hours after that because I had to check on a mama goat who was in labor. But let's see, how did it work? The fire went out at noon and I left the house. I shut everything down so that it wasn't sucking the air back up the chimney. I shut everything down at noon or 1. Maybe it was 1. Anyway, noon or 1, I shut it down. And the house was warm. And I left the house. 6 hours later, I came back. 5 or 6 hours later, I came back. The house was still warm. The coals were gone. And I restarted it. First try, it started right up. But I used the fire starters. It doesn't like paper. It doesn't like the ash that paper creates. It doesn't like paper. So these are the never blow out fire starters from Honeydew Carpenter. So anyway, so I started it last night and I kept feeding it until 10:30. I fell asleep at 8:30, and then I woke back up again to go check on the goat at 10:30. I put another log in, and that was the last log to go in. And you've seen the logs. You can only put in a log that big. The batch box isn't that big. And so at 10:30, I put the last one in, and then I slept until about 2:30. I woke up. The stove was dead as far as like there's no fire in it, no coals. But the room was at about... We had started out with the room at 76 degrees. When I woke up at 2:45, it was about 72, 74 degrees. I didn't restart the fire. I went out and checked on the goat. I came back in, and I went to bed. I did not restart it. Before that, I had been sleeping without a blanket. I'd just been on the bench, and I hadn't had a blanket. So when I came in at 2:45, I grabbed my blanket, and I'm trying to think. I think I laid on top of the blanket, kind of half out, so I didn't really need it, but I brought it down just in case. And at that point, once the stove went out, that's when the heat from the bench started creeping up into the blanket. So it was like sleeping with a hot water bottle. It wasn't unpleasantly warm. It wasn't unpleasantly hot. It was just very comfortable. And then I woke up again at like 6. woke up at 6, went out and checked on the goat, came back in and kind of gauged the temperature from having been outside. And right now it's about 72 degrees in here. I do have a sweater on, but I'm barefoot on an uninsulated floor. I have capris on, not long pants. I don't have a hat on. I'm extremely comfortable. And so it went from 10 o'clock in the morning, or 10 o'clock at night, till 6 o'clock in the morning without any fire in it. Although I guess you'd have to count if I put a one. Did I put one in at 10:30 or had it already gone out? I need to keep better notes on that. I think I put another log in at 10:30. Pretty sure I did, which means that it probably burned for another couple hours after that, because on this big of a piece it'll burn for 2 hours. So let's say that the fire went out at midnight and I woke up at 6 o'clock. There were no ashes in the stove. It was a clean burn, and I was totally warm. So the bench was still warm and putting off lots of heat. The stove itself and the pea gravel were lukewarm, so same temperature as me. And I started it back up, and so now I have it going again. It's recharging, but I do have it fluing out the window for just a minute. And so that's it. We had a normal cold Idaho night. I was incredibly comfortable. I never got chilled. It was slightly warmer, just slightly warmer upstairs than it was down here. And that's because instead of having all this heat that just kind of goes off the chimney and goes out into the room and goes straight up, instead what it is the heat is coming from the bench. It's coming diffused through those pebbles. It's coming from the actual burn box itself. It's coming out very, very slowly. And we have the fan on the top going, which has it has started going. I'll show you. There is the fan. Can you see the fan? The fan is going. Even though it hasn't been going for very long. There's the fan. So that fan is moving the heat around the room. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm not going to divert this. Well, you can see it. Let's see if you can see it. It's almost at 200 degrees on the chimney. And it is right about the same on top of the stove. So the coals need to be going a little bit more before I can, the coals need to go a little bit more before I can divert it into the bench. So what was the question? Do you have an eco fan for moving the heat around? Yes. So what I just showed you was the eco fan. And so yes, eco fan right there. That was a gift from Helios. Thank you, Helios. Farmall Fanatic. Hello, hello. Andrew Thomas said that answers the questions about the eco fan. LOL, thanks. Oh, no problem. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to make my bed. I guess I could try and point this so you can still see the stove. I'm not sure if you can still see the stove and see what I'm doing over there. But I'm going to go make my bed. Darn it. It's really hard to use a treadle sewing machine. It's hard to use a treadle sewing machine as a tripod. You'd think I would be more professional about this since I do it for a living, wouldn't you? Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'm going to make my bed really quick. You guys can stare at the beauty that is the stove. It probably it needs some more wood. There at the beginning when it's first starting out, it wants a full box of wood. This stove does not like it when it gets straight down to coals. I mean, it'll sit there and simmer, but at that point, all it's burning is the gases. So you can see it's already down to coals, and that's really all that's coming off of it is the gases. There's not a huge amount of flame. So it's much happier when it has quite a bit of wood in there. That being said, I'm cutting very small logs into quarters. And I burned last night, I burned the equivalent of 1 1/2. So the logs I split were that big, and I put them into quarters. And I burned 1 1/2 of those all night yesterday. So that's the equivalent of 3/4 of one of the logs, because I think we had one that was kind of wonky looking. So 3/4 of one of those logs is what I've burned so far this morning, but I won't have to burn that much again. I'll just have to keep putting in quarters for as long as I want to keep heating things up. So if at this point I felt like I was done and I didn't really want it to heat up so much, I would then take this, and I need to open that up. If it's closed, it won't get any oxygen. So there we have it. It's nice to have this because it's like a blast shield door. If for some reason the gas went out unexpectedly, it would blow the lid forward. I have had that happen where I just wasn't thinking. In fact, I need to take these out. Okay, so I have these air holes back here. I have these air holes back here that feed the vortex and give it more oxygen. So I need to open those up now that the stove is warm. So, on this one, because you do have the option to close it down, you have the reason this is nice is because if you don't close this down at night, then all the hot air gets sucked back up out the chimney. It's still fluing, and all your heat gets sucked out of the room. So having this on the front is important because you can close it down when the fire is out at night, so that all the heat stays in the room instead of getting sucked through the stove and out the chimney, which it will. So if you guys like this video, make sure to share. You can share it on Facebook, you can share it on Pinterest, you can share it anywhere you want to share it, but I think it's amazing. And make sure to go check out and subscribe to Honeydew Carpenter, because you're not going to see any of the how-tos here. You're just going to see my my experiments as I get it to work, or as I can't figure out how to make it work. You're going to see it here, but if you want to know how to actually make it, you're going to have to go over there. Let's see. Hey Frederick, how are you? We saw you on the live show yesterday. 9 a.m. your time. I have no idea what time it is here for my time. I'm doing it by goat baby standard time. Anytime the goats might be pushing, I'm out there. Andrew said, midnight here in Australia, drinking coffee madly, so don't want to miss any of this. LOL. Awesome. You poor thing. Oh, I was going to make my bed, wasn't I? So there we go. It's heating up nice. I can show you. Sorry, it's a little loud, but you can see it's really rip snorting. Even with this closed, it's still getting air. So this, over time, is going to be a pellet feeder. That's what this is. Scott said, really enjoy your channel. Thanks for all you do. Hello from northern Wisconsin. Hello, hello. And Debbie Hall said hello from Texas. Hello, hello. I really did want to show you making my bed. I don't know if I can figure out how to... There we go. I'm sorry you can't see the pretty stove right now, but I kind of wanted to show you. What I slept on last night. So I do have this pulled quite well away. This is pulled away from, even though this chimney doesn't get terribly hot, it does get about 200 degrees as it's going into the bench. So this one stays hot, but I can always touch it, and the lever's not open. So maybe I should show you opening the lever. This is the hot one going into the bench. This is the cold one going out of the bench. And now I will open it like that. So now it's open and it can go through the bench, but let's see how hot we are. We are at 250 degrees on top and 200 degrees going out the chimney. So I could probably let that heat up a little bit more. So I'm gonna close it back up so it's just going straight out the chimney. It's still warm enough in here from the bench that I don't really need that extra heat this morning. I am barefoot on an uninsulated floor. I'm perfectly fine. So that's what my bed looks like. I'm gonna pull this up just so that during the day when I'm gone, it's a little bit further. And then I'm gonna put some decorative pillows up. And now it just looks like a little bench that maybe has a little bit of plywood exposed. I saw somebody come in. What did they say? Andrew Thomas said wood types, any better than the other. Hardwood's always going to be better because it's going to burn cleaner, but all I have is softwood. I have pine. Let's see. Hello from Kentucky. That's getting started on homesteading. John Hayes said hello from Ohio. Great channel. Thanks. Oh, thanks for saying that. Okay, Frederick said, Julie, you're 2 hours behind me and the sun rising. Gotcha. Debbie Hall said, nice job. Curious about what brand lantern you're using. Let me see what. This one is a Quartz, or no, a Dietz. So the one that I used to use when I was a kid was the Aladdin. They're fantastic lanterns. They put off more light than the ones you can get at like a Harbor Freight or wherever you get them. But this one works adequately. It's just fine. To Be Dude said uninsulated floor burr. Actually, it's super nice today. The stove kept everything really nice last night. And so generally, yes, burr. I would not be able to walk barefoot on the floor, but it stayed really nice in here. Andrew Thomas said, love this channel, and we are 10,000 miles away. Oh, thank you. I love it when people love my channel. That makes me happy. So there's the room. I need to check and look at that goat again really quick. Yeah, she is bagging up. She is bagging up for sure. So, let's see. Adventurous Aardvark said, super nice here. Super nice here too. Very nice here. John said that it was freezing last night, or not last night, the night before. He had to go out and cover up my plants. So, I also have some videos of how the plants are doing back in Tulsa. And my friend Nikki is going over and actually checking on things, putting rabbit manure tea on, and putting in some more seeds for me. So thank you, Nikki. You're a lifesaver. So there's the stove. I have stuff I probably better go do now. I need to go check on her because she's hiding behind the bucket and I can't really see her butt. All I can see is her head. And I am going to head out. So hope you're enjoying the stove. I have not deflected it into the bench yet. I'm letting it heat up for one thing because the cabin's already hot enough. I'm happy just to let the stove, the chimney keep warming up for a little bit. Aardvark said, going to have a hard freeze tonight. Cool. Or no, Friday night. I have a question. Robin said, have a question. You explain what an Airbnb is. So an Airbnb is a privately owned, what you would regularly call a bed and breakfast. But what it is it's one company that manages all of them, which means that you list your bed and breakfast with the Airbnb company, and then it makes it so you can find everybody you need to in all the different towns. Instead of being a random Airbnb that nobody can find, instead you're part of a system of Airbnb so that people can find you easily. Does that make sense? And most people actually don't feed you. Usually it's just a bed. You know, you come in and you have a bed. But we have stayed at some where they did also make breakfast. The last one that I did that was just a room in their house, she does make breakfast for you, which was lovely. And we got to visit with the other guest. There were 2 guests at that time. And so we got to have breakfast together. They had chickens in the backyard and rabbits in the backyard. And it doesn't have to be any particular way. With glamping, you don't even have to have a bathroom in it as long as you advertise that it doesn't have a bathroom. You can use an outhouse. You can have an outdoor shower. You can have 0 shower as long as you advertise that that's what is part of the stay. You can do it however you want to do it as long as people stay safe. So that's what an Airbnb is. Hey, Layla. Let's say Brown Coat said, have a good day. Andrew said, have a good day. To Be Buddy said, an Uber for bed and breakfast. Very similar. Yes, very similar platforms. Phyllis said, have a great day. Thanks for the videos. Great videos. Thanks for all your advice. It really helps. Thanks, Andrew. So everybody share this if you like it, or if you have a favorite Dirtpatcheaven video, please make sure to share it. I'm so close to 100,000, and yet it feels so far away, and we get more views than that, you know, as far as like monthly views, but we are not at 100,000 yet, and it would be nice to hit that, even though it doesn't really mean anything. You know, it's one of those, maybe it's an ego thing, I don't know. Okay, she is still chewing her cud, so babies are not imminent. Yep, 92 and growing, so make sure to share, please. Facebook, Pinterest, if you like it, keep sharing it. Okay, I got so much work to do. I love you guys. Hope you're enjoying our adventure, and we'll talk to you later. Oh, don't forget the Facebook Live on Saturday at 10 a.m.